Well, Skamper build part 2, 3, 4, 5, all in one. See, I had hours and hours of raw footage. I went to load it up on the computer and the card was corrupted. My dad did everything he could to try and get some footage back, and it was all lost. There was random, we got like 30-second clips of here and there that didn't have any, what do we want to call it, frame of reference to what I was doing. So I am ditching it all, and we're gonna do it this way. So first things first, that sucks. I am much more angry about it than you are, trust me. Anyway, this is what the entire camper is sheeted in. It is 040 aluminum siding for a semi-trailer. Got it at US trailer. Drove over to the nearest location. They had some scrap pieces. I ended up getting 2 pieces. I laid everything out on the computer after I measured with overhangs and everything else. But the roof is one solid piece. It's made out of plywood. Stacked it, measured it just like the original. But the biggest thing is that these corners right here, they don't, can we see that? The corners up here, they don't make anymore for this. They make a close one, but it's not, the new one is too tall. So what I came up with was just do it, take some extra time, do some extra measuring. After seeing how they build these things, because I had this, like I say, skinned down right down to nothing. The only seams are in the corners. But the roof was made out of this here, or made like this. So I've got alternating lapping panels. At one point I had it all figured out. I can't remember, like I say, I lost everything on how far I could measure this, but it kind of worked, kind of didn't. So what I ended up doing was figuring out how to get this notch cut, because at the factory what they did is they just measured, or they just came off of this here, cut that straight off, and then just folded it down and used that corner piece, the plastic unobtainium, to make it. So I did a test to see how my aluminum would roll out. I just took pink board and slotted it, dadoed, I don't know what you want to call it. Just took out a saw blade width and left a saw blade width, and then glued it. And then when you roll everything up and together, come on, I have interlapping corners. I can't see. Interlapping corners. I put a metal corner brace in here, and I ran this aluminum long so it matches right up like so. And then with everything screwed together, just took some seam sealer and ran that real nice up and around the corner. Now we don't have to worry about that corner piece cracking out. There shouldn't ever be any leaking out of it. The corner brace in the rear for the pop-up system holds that together real tight. So that's all drilled in and quad caulked with what ended up being like the perfect color match. I mean, that's the quad and that's the paint. So that was not planned. I just found the right quad, I guess. If you haven't figured it out, this whole video is just going to be me trying to talk and fill in what I lost. It's not what I wanted either. So anyway, all these strips, Amazon special, 3/4 by 3/4, and it was a 10-pack, I believe, was like 180 bucks, or one piece was 90, I believe. So obviously they're nailing you on shipping. But back to the aluminum siding. It's 040. I did not pre-cut anything. I just got it within like 4 inches, and then I lined it up at the top here and ran, I liquid nailed all the seams, or where the uprights are, after I put 1 inch, ½ inch, I forget, pink board insulation. The entire thing's pink boarded, then liquid nails, then put the skin on. I did not cut for any windows until after it was on. Then I came down, measured, you know, down from the bottom and the back, came across, cut that nice and smooth. Then I came back in, went on the inside of the trailer, and I drilled out from the insides of the windows, and then straight edge, and cut that window out, put the window in there. This one down here is one piece, and then I have 1 inch overlap that I just bent by hand and a hammer as I put that around there. So that's all screwed and glued. Then just clean up the whole access holes. There's a propane tank in here. This whole board, this bottom panel, was rotten out. So I took that piece out, measured it up, got all the screws cut, laid a new piece in, and then screwed everywhere I could. Cleaned everything up. This front corner, let's see if I can get this open here. Come on. Please pause 10 seconds for station identification. So this here is just a sheet of plywood, tinned up, bent, stapled on the corners. Yep, and I guess I tinned the bottom so they can't even show what I was getting at here. Anyway, underneath this tin is like 3 layers of plywood, the full size of the inside, and then drilled my screws. I guess I forgot I even did that too. So this is from here this way is the factory bracket. Screws were holding up just fine, but on the old wood, with it being rotten, and I figured I didn't want it to go anywhere, and I would give this a little more support here, is I found another piece of metal that had a nice 90-degree bend on it, made a hook so I can run either hook straps down to the corner instead of trying to go like out and around and down. And I've seen guys like hook a strap to here and then over the bed rail, and it's trying to lift up the front. Well, I wanted a strap on the inside that went straight down, so just imagine this to your bed hook. And then new trucks seem to be wider than the old trucks, especially when you got spacers on the truck. So I found a piece of 1.5 inch rectangular tube, welded that to the outside, and I just have a piece of angle iron here to hold my jacks horizontal going down the road. So I screw this out to my welded nut inside of there, spin that down, run the bolt back in, tighten it up. Bob's your uncle, you got your jacks down. And while your strap steel, set that in here, ran the bolts up, drilled holes, sunk everything together, so now it's pancaked. I believe this was double 3/4, maybe not, but that thing's in there and not going anywhere. Cabinet is full of junk. Like I say, just cleaned it up, painted what I could. Furnace works, messed with that. Reskinned all of the lower panels here because it was, well, I'll do this wall because I had to, because I had this one all tore apart trying to insulate it and skin it back up. Well, I may as well do this one, okay, and then do that. Okay, I'm just gonna do it all so it all matches. But what we ended up doing on the counter is there was no sink in here before, so I just found a little sink, cut it out, set the sink in, voila, now you have a sink to go with your water spout holes that were there for some reason. Propane works, didn't do anything with that, it works fine, but it's an epoxy countertop. You can watch a lot of the guys do it. I've done a few counters, but you know, this is just epoxy and spray paint and dripping it around and moving it around with the heat gun. There's plenty of guys that do it. Just pick 4 or 5 different colors and heat gun and play with it. It's gonna look terrible, but then all of a sudden it starts looking like a marble-ish countertop. This is just stick-on backing stuff. Same thing here. Just some counter backing, whatever you call it, cabinet backing, I don't know. I've got black trim on the way for this and black cover trim for that because that's bugged me. Fridge, didn't do much with that except take it out, make sure it works on 12 volt 120 and propane. Somehow you make fire and it cools stuff off. Here is the controller for the solar panel. I've got the charge wires coming in here. They go up through the roof, go inside of this. I'm missing my little wedge. I gotta get that back up through here, and then somewhere in this ballpark is a hole up through the roof. Like I said, it's stained, it is not leaking, it's all fixed. A pile Bluetooth radio. The head unit's just fine, but the name says it all on these speakers, so it works fine for having quiet, you know, if you just want a little bit of tunes going. These are just canvas walls, so you can't get too rowdy in here with the audio anyway. Otherwise the entire campsite's gonna hear what you got cooking. Underneath here I added a 12 volt marine USB and power supply. The power converter, I got that working. Sends 120 off battery or conveyance, whatever. But 120 is looped together. I got a battery that came with it inside of here. And then the water pump, this is not the right line, so that might be something you want to look at changing on yours. But little automatic pressure sensing power switch, which I set up here with a secondary switch so it doesn't, you know, accidentally get left on and flood something. All of this came as the PVC pipe did not, but the tank and the pump came as a kit, so that's hanging out in here, so you can take it out during the winter. Just loosen up that hose, boop, pull the tank up and out. That's just a little cabinet for your wires. Not much you're going to change there. I guess like one more thing. That's all caulked up, seamed up. What I was going to do was make this so you could hook up a garden hose at the campsite, and then this hose would go to the hot side of the sink or cold side, one or the other, I can't remember. But you take this, run it up to your sink, and then one side would be for the switch valve tank in there, and the other side would be campsite pressure, which I also found out that say you do have campsite pressure, you turn, I forget how it would work, maybe it wouldn't work, because I think it force feed through the faucet if you turned it on or something, I don't know. Anyway, I didn't get that far. That's the drain. I got a drain hose screw on there. The back side of the refrigerator here, I had that all out, checking the floor in there, so I lined that with the aluminum sheeting that I had. And then I don't know if we can see, but what if we go in this way? Yep, that aluminum sheet up there, there was not one there before. All the heat from inside of here just kind of hung out. Well, I took this piece of aluminum and just kind of bent it to just push a little more heat out of that register. Just got a new black plastic thing there. The biggest issue I had was trying to figure out how to get these to bend. Now you say, what do you mean? Those look great. They do down here. So all I did was start up here in this corner, screwed 1, 2, 3, ran another one in, and then I tried being gentle, but it wasn't working. So as this was a straight piece, I just started pushing and whacking it in with a hammer because it'd start bending. I used a rubber mallet and just kept pushing and tapping. I'd get the next screw in, push and whack, next screw, and then ended up just pounding on it with a hammer to get it down flush. Put a little liberal amount of quad on there to keep that seamed up. But once I got down to here, that was the tricky part. So the bottom hit like so, if we can imagine, and then I just kept pushing and pushing until I got this nice bend, and it ended up working out pretty darn good. So I don't know what else we got cooking here. You got your emergency exit up front. The like I say, all the gaps on the inside are 1-inch foamed. Did I have anything else? You just measure when I took this off to reskin it, because it was corrugated aluminum. Just measured where everything was, took everything off, painted it. These were new. Notched these pieces in the corners, bent them over, cleaned those bottom rails up, painted those. I don't know. Like I say, I had hours and hours and hours and hours of raw footage on this thing. From what I can remember. So the underlying main issue that I have with the roof build, I looked online. Boy, it's terrible lighting in here. Is that any better? Anyway, there we go. I looked online trying to find what sort of glue to use to glue the plywood, the insulation, the aluminum, and the whatever you call this junk liner panel together. I found some stuff that like the commercial RV uses. It's like a spray-on 2-part rubber cement. I couldn't really find much information on that saying that it glued aluminum to anything else, and that some of that glue, when it activates, you spray one part on one side, the other part on the other, you stick it together and it's stuck, which I wasn't worried about that part. I was worried that sometimes it'll eat the insulation apart, and I didn't want to go through all the work and have the insulation fail on me. So I ended up doing a whole bunch of looking, and we came up with tight bond advanced polymer panel adhesive, rapid cure rate, strong, fast grab. This is what really got me here. Bonds virtually any material. So it's a 3.5 gallon bucket for $245. That looks like it came down a little bit. So I ended up having to buy 2 of them because the roof took nearly an entire 3-gallon can. It's pretty simple to use. Open the tub up, get your quarter-inch notch trowel, smear it on, 1/4-inch notches. Like I say, I had all the aluminum laid out in the floor in the garage, all the roof laid out upside down, measured, marked 13 times. All the plywood was cut, so all I had to do was stick everything together. And I used that advanced polymer, like I said, after I had tested it out on my little test piece out here. So as you can see, there used to be some pink board glued to this, judging by the ink left behind. But the problem is it looked great. I let it cure for a week, sat there. I was jumping on it, the kids were jumping on it. I tried pulling the insulation off of this, and I got like this much to pull right here in the corner, well, you can see. And I thought, well, you know, it looks like it didn't really grab there, so I can't fault that. So I went ahead on the entire project. Now fast forward, this is sitting out in the driveway. I had this all corner braced and screwed up just like it was going to be a little roof, and I had it sitting out here like so, but all cornered up and nice. Kids kept jumping on it. I said go ahead, it's just a test piece. It did look so dang good that I didn't want to mess it up, but what are you gonna do? It's a test piece. So fast forward, I go to pick it up, I pull on that piece of insulation, and as soon as I pull on that piece of insulation, it goes whoosh, and peels right off. Now the plywood still cannot get that off, so there's no, as hard as I'm pulling, I cannot peel that glue off, so it's stuck. The frame is good, but when they build these roofs, a lot of the structural integrity comes from that panel insulation being glued to each other and it all becoming one big laminate. But evidently the glue failed on the fiberglass, not fiberglass, pink board, foam board, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not recommending anybody use that advanced polymer stuff. I don't know what the right thing would be, but I can tell you I wouldn't use the advanced polymer. Now, in spots where you like dig your trowel in and like scratch the pink board, it seems to really grip and grab, but it didn't do what I had going. So anyway, it started sagging or getting like a little bit too flush for me, so I took some aluminum, laid it up there, and took it up to my buddies, and I made this roof rack looking thing. Now I would say you could put a kayak up there if you wanted to, because looking at it from the inside here, I've got oak stainless steel bolts going up from the bottom. Everything's clamped in and tight. It's not going anywhere. The way, let's see if we can see it. The angle iron or angle aluminum sits on top. I did not screw anything in from the top on the angle, but it's cupped and it's holding it tight. It's glued and screwed. I've got zero issues in that roof lasting longer than the rest of this build. So that brings us to our next issue, the AC unit hole. I think that's half the reason that this thing was junk. Before, in part one, there was 2x4s up right here. This hole, all of this was rotten out. This piece was all rotten out. It was bad. The floor was not the floor, but like the cross braces underneath those were all rotten. The floor is some sort of treated stuff, so that's fine. Anyway, this is all 3/4 inch plywood, and what is it, Craig toenailed all of that in. This back wall is not going anywhere. But the issue is, I didn't want to spend any more money because this thing got out of hand real quick. And I installed this by using some heavy-duty aluminum angle, and I pushed the AC unit inside the camper as much as I could to keep it from sitting back here and doing this while you're going down the road and you show up somewhere and all you have is a chunk of extension cords slinging out the back because you lost everything else. But anyway, I tried saving this sweet unit that they had spray foamed in there. Put these on there. I mean, that thing was rigid, solid, caulked it, had everything cleaned up real nice. But what I forgot to do was silicone up or weld shut these holes in the drain pan. So unbeknownst to me, the first 2 trips that the wife went on and I was not with, she had it in the back of the truck, AC unit going, didn't think anything of it, and it was not draining. It was draining into the right down on top of here. So I thought that I had screwed something up, but I guess this is a little peek inside here. We got the Craig screws into the subframe or main frame, but this is all solid and all brand new, but it got water damage from that AC unit leaking. So somewhere around here is a brand new, not that that shows you anything, but there's a brand new air conditioner. because I didn't want to caulk the holes and try and move this thing down the road and have it leak and it be an issue. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting this piece off. I'm gonna get some of this plastic trimmy stuff and trim this up as best I can, replacing this, but this is all solid. It's just got some staining from, like I say, from 2 trips. Here's another thing I did on the hitch. Well, I don't know what we're calling those. Camper mounting tabs, lift brackets, doodads, thingamajigs, whatever. Once I got, how did I do that? Anyway, from what I can remember on the price of this, the aluminum was $1,200 for a total of 24 feet, 72 inches wide, no, 102 inches wide. So I could get away with seamless anywhere I could. Like I say, the roof's all one piece. LED bullet lights, most of those were in there when I got it, but I got some new ones that matched and worked. The paint is Destroyer Gray from, it's a Mopar paint code. So basically you could get a little touch-up pen at the auto parts store and fix any little scratches if you get any. The quad color is Dark Knight, or Knight's Armor is Knight's Armor. Black trim, painted what I couldn't afford to buy a new trim of. The brackets down here, those were homemade. Roof rack was homemade, but that's all aluminum painted black. These jacks, like I say, we got 4 new jacks. The original camper was $800. Shortly after the original Skamper build, part 1, when I was sitting there humming and hawing, I should have just scrapped it and bought a new camper, or new-ish. But the issue was that I wanted a pop-up because I didn't want to drive down the road with a 20-foot tall camper in the back of my truck. Why not just buy a motorhome at that point? So I wanted a pop-up, and I couldn't find anything in like the 2000 to 2015 range that was a pop-up. So it seemed like they quit making them, maybe, or everyone that has them loves them. But the new ones are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and the old ones are all rotten out and junk and don't look super great. So I ended up going this route. According to my credit card bill, when I went hog wild and built this thing, I was up to $5,600 in parts, materials, glues, screws, plywood, paint, aluminum, everything put together. And then I had an $800 camper on top of that. So hindsight, I should have bought a new one. It wasn't the greatest thing that I came up with, but it does look good. I'll put in a picture of it sitting in the back of the black truck there, and then one in the wife's half-ton, which you'll see why it's going down the road then, because that's what I built it for, was so if I wasn't around, the wife could sneak off with the kids for the weekend, throw it in the back of her truck by herself, and she did it twice. But I put bags on heavier springs in the back of the half-ton, and it just didn't look good. And I've seen too many videos of this new 5th gens being folded in half. So I guess what I'm going to do is, for this AC unit, there it is, that new unit is an 1/8 of an inch wider and a 1/16 taller. Evidently I did not give myself any wiggle room. I could hammer, wedge, and push that thing in here, but what I'm going to do is take that J channel that's laying there. I'm going to set the J channel upside down on here to basically protect this wood. Say anything else leaks, it'll either just run into the inside and you'll notice it, or it'll run back to the outside where nobody cares. But I'm going to have to cut just a sliver. I'm going to say probably a 1/4 inch off of this side and this side, thus moving the AC up and over just a tick. But I'll get that J channel on there, and then I'll go back around. I had this in there. That one's real mangled. So was that one. Boy, quad's wicked stuff. Anyway, it's just roof edge. I had this like so, 45-degree cut, so everything lined up, and then I just cut down this seam and then had this all paneled up and everything looked good. But oh, the wife's home. Anyway, get the AC unit in and I'll take a picture of the thing when I'm done. Alright, well, I got her marked out. I went a little heavy, ended up going 1/2 inch and 3/8 or so on the top. So now that we got that marked out, we'll just come over here and we'll get ready to cut it out. Well, just to catch up, we got some paneling back in here. It's not ideal, but is what it is at this point. Now for the waterproofing stage, I've got a solid line of quad across here. I've got my first piece of J trim that I'm going to use not as it was designed. I suppose I could put a little shot in there too. Maybe. Just line up some along the inside rib here, so when I squish it down it should I had that on here once. You know why? Because the camera wasn't on. There we go. Get that all squished down. As you can see, we've got good silicone penetration here coming out of my corners. So now those are pretty much watertight. Just kind of, you know, finger it around a little bit. One in there. One in there. Now I will do the same thing. Measure these. This is a 17-inch hole. Cut this one at 19. Do the same thing on the top, 19. Cut in 1.25 inches. There goes the fan. It's 105 degrees at that fan, so it kicked on. Anyway, get the next one on. Well, AC is now set. Come on. AC is set in. I used the top bracket that was provided, but the little screws that hold this top rib in didn't seem to really grab much, so I hogged those out, ran some nice rivets in there. Ended up using my old piece of aluminum down here, but this right here is the key for any pop-up camper with an AC installed in the back window. Wind comes out of here, comes straight across. Anybody sleeping on this bed is in a refrigerator, and anybody that's up there is in an oven. So what this little guy does is it puts a air wing or foil, I mean, it's spoiler alert right here, but yeah, screw this thing. I gotta notch it a little bit different on the other AC, but this pushed so much air up top that when I was sleeping down on the bottom here, I was getting a little warm, and the wife and the daughter up there were pretty chilly. So that thing is key. That is just the cover for the AC right here, trimmed down with a screw flange here, and then I just trimmed it up and put her up there. So yeah, we got my J trim in here. Like I said, I'm still gonna get some white PVC board. We'll put that in here, trim this out nice like I was supposed to a long time ago. Never did. Probably trim out this edge. And outside here, I will use my black roof edge again and get that cut down, and I will get that 45 notched and screwed and everything looking good. So we'll catch up. Okay, I got my trim cut, pre-cut, test fit. Just 45 the corners and bring the flat piece, let's see, bring the flat side in a little bit just so you have some overlap. Start at the bottom and you just screw your way up. Look directly into the sun, my friends. Just going to run 2 in on the bottom here to hold it. Then we will take our side pieces. Already got a good seam of quad on the outside here, which, by the way, is for professional use only. Where does it say? Exterior use only. Somewhere in here it says only professionals. I pretend to be one on TV, so that should count, right? Anyway, back to the programming. I've got a big goo of white on the inside there. My test pre-fit piece. That I should have pre-fit again. Well, see what I got going here is this little lip should have gotten cut like it did on this side, but I forgot to on this side. So I will nip that off. Okay. Cut off, trimmed up. Too far. There we go. Now what I'll do is I'll shoot a little quad in here. I suppose I can just do that now. Little quad in here, and then we'll get some screws. Well, to add to the already probably too long video, because there's no work to really edit out, figured we'd do a little final inside, what we got done. We got the AC unit all installed, white PVC trim around it. Wire was already there, add a little more trim. It is what it is. Looks a heck of a lot better than it was, so that's in there good and tight, cleaned up, good enough. Was not a big fan of the chalk gray drawers and cabinets, so I pulled those off quick and hit them with some metallic gunmetal or something, which, if you've been following along, is the same stuff I painted the frame on the Goldwing with, leftover. So hit that down there. I figured out I do have a long pillowcase that should fit perfectly into, and then we'll have everything covered up and cleaned up. I guess that's a wrap on here. Oh, if you do think you're going to try and do this, I would say the biggest issue about this whole roof is I bet this thing weighs like 450, 500 pounds. I found a forklift somewhere that had a trailer, and I brought that home, and with the 15-foot long fork extensions on it, had that lifted up as high as I could get it, because not as high as the forklift would go, but you have to slip this tube into here with there's a tension rod in here, and you have to have the bars swung out this way and clocked so you're pulling them back in. And I had to have ratchets. I had this thing, I bet another 2.5 feet in the air, and I had ratchet straps down to the end of these pipes on both sides pulling in. It was super sketchy trying to get those lined up because that shaft comes just about down to here, I bet. And it was all I could do with a forklift trying to get this thing set back on. At the time, I figured I'd get, you know, 3-4 guys over. We'd have the camper set right on the ground and, you know, we'd just horse it up. Yeah, you could get it up, but I don't think you'd ever get it high enough to get those pipes in there. So that's a huge hurdle that I ended up having a forklift for. You could rent one, I suppose, and pull it off, or a skid loader or something like that. But that was one of the biggest challenges, was trying to get the roof set back on and get these tensioner things in here. I'm guessing some of you have been sitting here wondering, what the hell's this rope for? Looks way out of place. Well, if you have a pop-up camper, you are aware that when you run it down, it starts to get heavy, and then at the very last minute it wants to close down on itself. I'm not ready to close it down, but that's what this little guy is for. When the roof starts getting heavy and wants to come down, I just loop it onto here and it holds. So then I can go around to the outside and push all of my tarps in, get it about this high, hook that on, push all your tarps in, and then go and pull that loop off. And then here's our installed outside of the AC unit. Very clean, looks good. Should be waterproof this time. So I guess any other questions, let me know. I think I hit everything as best I could, considering I lost hundreds of, maybe not hundreds, I bet 100 hours of raw footage, because I had planned on this build kind of making the page take off a little bit, but what do? I guess you make short, awkward ones. Oh, the reason the Skamper camper's going down the road is the next part of the build, or build series, will be this hot unit. Check that out. Nice rusty, extended, camper-ish, camper-esque. It's going to be in here, all in one. And then, I don't know if I already said, but yeah, this is the van. So Duramax, did head gaskets in it. That sucked. There's a reason the shops charge as much as they do for them. It was not fun. There's no way to get them. I pulled the body completely off of this thing. My latest idea is I got takeout seats with seat belts in them. I'm gonna try and set those in as close as I can for short legs, to sit behind us while we go. And then being a 3/4 ton, or 1 ton, I guess, we'll just pull the trailer behind this thing and camp and 4-wheel and snowmobile and everything out of these two. So we'll have camper set up in here, and then in the trailer there'll be another rudimentary or primitive camper. So if you want to hang out in here or hang out in the camper or the trailer, be able to have more people, I guess. So that's a wrap.